Thanks so much for joining us for today's Elko Live here on KELK. We're so pleased to feature Wendy Charlebois in studio, and Wendy has been our guest talking about this extremely important subject for our community, and we have some amazing news. There's been some great strides in education for local professionals. We're talking about suicide awareness and prevention and the amazing work that is accomplished by Zero Suicides of Elko County. Thanks for scooching yourself up there, Wendy, to that microphone. And welcome back to the radio show. It's always a pleasure to see you, friends.
Yeah, thank you, Lori, for having me. I do enjoy this because I think this is such a great way to get the word out about Zero Suicides Elko County. And for those of you who don't know, it's an organization that was founded several years ago by Lynette Vega and Jan Basier. Actually, it was started out as kind of a support for both of them, and then Lynette really began the whole push to, kind of formalize it, and then starting the nonprofit process. And so now Zero Suicides is a nonprofit. And we're doing a lot of things September and October are really full for Zero Suicides because September is, Suicide Prevention Month. And we've always done lots of things during September, but it seems like this September we've got even more in store for everyone. But just to let people know, we talk about suicide a lot in our group. I'm the faculty. I am the community liaison for Zero Suicides, and we have a board. I sit on that board, and we talk a lot about suicide because most of the people that are in our group have lost someone to suicide, and unfortunately, most of us have lost children to suicide, and we support one another, and we know a lot about suicide, and we also talk a lot about suicide. And what we want people to do outside of our group is to talk about suicide and how it's necessary to learn more about suicide, because that's the only way we can prevent it. That's the only way we can prevent suicide, is to get rid of that stigma, to ask people if they're okay. In fact, we've got to ask someone if they're okay day coming up, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But we want people to reach out to others if they're down or if they're feeling bad. You never know when you can make a difference just by talking to someone, asking if they're all right, finding out if they're thinking about suicide. I know that's scary for people, but that's what we have to do. And that's why we have Zero Suicides. That's why we try and keep the topic of suicide in, on shows like this and in the paper and any place we can talk to people about suicide, because that's the way we can prevent it.
You're right, as in Zero Suicides, Elko County, this group that was born from tragedy and grief and despair, which is now such a hopeful organization. Wendy, it provides solace for those who are currently suffering, so you don't have to go through this alone. But then at the same time, and you and I have mentioned this before, you don't know how many people you have actually saved, not only by supporting families who've lost loved ones to suicide, but to those who may be in pain right now and contemplating suicide.
Exactly. And when you mention the families, having lost my son to suicide, I know what it's done to me. I'm certainly not the same person I used to be, but my family has really suffered because of my son's suicide. But people who have had suicide in the family have an increased chance of dying by suicide themselves, and we worry about that. When we find out that someone has lost someone to suicide, we want to reach out to that family and give them the supports that they need, through our support group, through joining Zero Suicides. In fact, I didn't really even know that this group existed. I had taken lots of training about suicide prevention, but I didn't even know this group existed until my son died by suicide, and I wanted to do something about it. I was mad. I was mad at some things that happened, in the community. I was mad. I wanted to do something about it, and that's how I got involved. And so, people worry that if we talk about suicide, more people are going to do it, and we know. I mean, that's a myth about suicide. It is just not true. You can't really make someone do something that they don't want to do. And talking about suicide is not going to plant the seed for suicide.
Well, in fact, we understand that someone who is contemplating suicide, who has suffered suicide in the family, Wendy, as you said, they're trying to escape pain. And so that's why the talking is so important, because they can talk to people. You're not normalizing the idea of suicide. You're normalizing talking about having those feelings.
Right.
Suicide is often impulsive. And that's why, again, the means of lethality, all those things that we consider as family and friends, we talk about, oh, hey, is so-and-so okay? Did you check on them today? Were they able to take their guns over to their parents' house? Those kinds
Right.
of, just normalize the conversation.
Right. And that's something that you learn. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that you learn how to do when you take our Safe Talk training, which we are going to be doing in Battle Mountain on September 15th. Lynette Vega and I will be doing the training in Battle Mountain. We are going to be setting up more Safe Talk trainings. We're going to be doing assist training in October, the last week in October. And I mentioned the Are You OK Day is what we are, let's see, when is it? I don't think we've got a date. But we want you to stay connected. We want you to stay connected with people. And one of the ways that you can stay connected with people is simply by, if you notice that someone is a little bit down, is just by saying, "Are you okay?" And then if they say, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm just tired," okay. But if you suspect that there may be something else going on, you might want to say something like, "Well, you say you're fine, but I've kind of noticed that you're just not yourself these days. You're coming to work late, or you're not talking with your friends. You haven't been going out much. I'm wondering what that's about." And that's just an easy way to start a conversation is just by noticing a person's behavior. If something really is off with you, especially your friends, you know what your friends are like, you know what your family's like, just ask. And sometimes you can even ask a total stranger. I have done that when I've seen someone crying on campus. When I taught at the college, if I saw a student crying on campus, "Are you okay?" And sometimes that led to a much bigger discussion. Sometimes it was like, "Oh, I'm worried about this exam I'm having." And, but you never know. So just by asking that question, and then by knowing the resources that you have in your community, if you find out that someone's really not okay, we have a lot of resources here in Elko that a lot of people don't know about. People always tell me, "Oh, there's nothing here for me," but that's not true. And I've got tons of resources that you could call me. You could go online to our website. Just Google Zero Suicides Elko County. That will pop up for you. We've got a Facebook page. We've got a website with all of our trainings on there. And it's just Zero Suicides, Elko County. Just Google that, and you'll find a lot of information.
Wendy Charlebois is our guest today, and she is a social worker, retired, although I don't know, you may still hold your credentials. You certainly could. You are an educator. You teach for UNR, and I did want to mention that sometime in the program because that's really important, again, to meeting local needs. But what Wendy was talking about is, are you okay? It is, I think you're talking about planning a special Are You Okay Day, which sounds great. You can go online and it's the letter R and then the letter U, because a lot of young people like to just say, are you okay, like that. So RU, the 2 letters, and then okay.org.au, and that will give you these tips that Wendy was just talking about. Say, hey, are you okay? And then if they say, not really, and then you can start digging a little bit to find out, and listen with an open mind, encourage support, make time to check in with them again. It's just a process, and it will actually probably help your communication skills in a lot of other ways, even if someone's just fine, right?
Right,
So
right,
what a great
right.
idea, Wendy.
It's just a way to get the conversation going, you know?
Yes, just a way to get the conversation going, which is really what matters so much. And that leads to the You Matter campaign. I mean, there are a lot of different organizations now that are collaborating, Wendy, with this local effort. Is that right?
Yeah, we collaborate with NAMI. We collaborate with the hospital. We have a quarterly providers meeting where we invite all of the physicians and mental health providers. We have a gathering. We have food. We have drink. We have usually a speaker, and people can exchange business cards. We can find out what the latest if there are any new providers in the community. So we collaborate with all of the mental health providers. They know about us, is what I'm trying to say, and we refer to them. We do things with. We've got partners with Nevada Health Center. I just can't even think of all the partners that we have.
But I know Vitality integrated.
Yeah, Vitality,
yes,
and
all kinds
and
of, yes.
lots of different, lots of different things around the community. And that's just another thing that a representative from Wendy's Hamburgers came to us and said they want to do something for us. And so on September 10th, between 5 and 8, if you go to the Wendy's on Mountain City Highway and place a mobile or delivery order or just come to the restaurant, 15% of the proceeds will be going to Zero Suicides. So I think that's going to be a fun thing. We're going to be there. Zero Suicides is going to be there. We're going to provide information, and it's just a fun way to, get your Frosty on if you want one of those, and learn more about suicide prevention.
What a great partnership. Again, that'll be the Wendy's on Mountain City Highway. And then you place your order. Again, the date is September 10th, so we'll talk a lot about that. That's great. Between 5 and 8 p.m. And that kind of collaboration that Wendy's describing too, this outreach goes throughout all ages. And a group that I'm so proud of every time I see them, and I hope they're in the fair parade this coming Friday, because it just fills my heart with joy, is the Hope Squad.
Yeah.
They're growing so much. It used
Yeah.
to be a handful of students.
Yeah.
But I tell you, Wendy, they know how to talk to each other. They know how to look out for one another, because they've actually felt that pain of loss and said, I didn't know, I wasn't there for that person. But now I can change things, right?
Yeah, well, when you think about the many suicides that we've had in the last 10 years in Elko County, a lot of them have been students. And so that's how the Hope Squad was born, was to try and, be boots on the ground with your peers, and knowing how to talk to someone who may be in crisis. And then those people know how to talk to the adults, that and let someone know, an adult know that there is someone in crisis, and that is such a great program and a great way to, get to know the kids in the school and to know what they're thinking. And, because a lot of times, teenagers just won't go to an adult, but they will go to another teenager. And hopefully, we want all the students in Elko County to know, we want them all to know that there is hope for you. There is help for you. And if you're listening to this, reach out to someone in the Hope Squad or reach out to an adult if you are in crisis, if you're thinking about dying, if you're thinking about harming yourself in any way, please go to someone. Or you can call the 988 number. That's easy. That is an easy thing where you can find someone. It's the Crisis and Suicide Prevention number. Call that number and someone will help you. Someone will talk to you about what's going on. You feel better when you talk to somebody. I don't know about everybody else, but I know when I'm feeling down, it helps when I talk to somebody. And I think most people feel that way. They don't like to at first, but then when they do, they feel better.
And that's the important thing, is that maybe someone doesn't want to talk about it, or as you said, the first step is the hardest step. But once that person knows that you are there for them and that they can talk to you and that you do have some of the tools that you need. And if you're not the person that has the tools, then you can seek someone out too to help you with that. And that's what we're talking about today, is that Zero Suicides Elko County is developing all these local resources, tools, the Safe Talk training, the Assist training, so that just everyday people in the workplace or in the grocery store, waiting in line somewhere, has the skills to be able to say, hey, are you okay? And if you're not, here's what we will do to get you through.
Right. I want to talk about our walk, but I do want to talk about some of the warning signs of suicide, because I think that's, maybe I'll talk about that first. How do we know that if someone is thinking about suicide? Well, it's kind of hard unless we do talk to them, but we can notice people's behavior. And if people, here are some warning signs for adults. Well, actually, I'm going to talk about the warning signs for youth, because and some of them are the same, some of them are a little bit different, but anybody that's talking about suicide or making plans, we used to think, if people are talking about it, they're not going to do it. That's not true. That is not true. If people are talking about it, listen and help them get the help that they need.
They're not seeking attention.
Right. They're not seeking attention. If people are expressing thoughts of hopelessness or about the future, that's a big warning sign. Especially, I think, in youth. If they're saying things like, "Well, I don't even know what's going to happen in the future, and it's just not going to work out for me." Or
the world would be better off without me.
The world would be better off without me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Displaying any kind of severe emotional pain or distress. Crying a lot. Changing their eating habits, their sleeping habits. It doesn't always mean that someone's thinking about suicide, but it is time to ask the question, are you okay? And if they're not, then go to the next step. Any kinds, especially in youth, any kinds of changes in behavior, like I mentioned, eating, sleeping, grades, blowing up at people, withdrawing from their friends, a lot of irritability. Those are all signs that we see in youth that, and we think, that's just typical teenage behavior. Well, sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. And, there has been a significant increase in the in the mental health issues of our youth. In fact, about 90% of youth are experiencing some type of a mental health issue. And so, and it wasn't just because of COVID. People think that, but it's that this trend was beginning before COVID. So we really want to make sure that our youth, that we're looking out for our youth. And the Hope Squad is important. We have social workers in schools now, which I'm really happy about. And so there are people that can help students if they need it. And if you're a parent and your kids are experiencing things like this, let me tell you, I know how scary it is. It is scary. And you don't want to think that your child would ever do something like that. And I'm here to tell you that they do. And so that's why it's so important. You have to, as a parent, if you're worried, reach out to someone yourself. Call 988. They can give you guidance. Call Zero Suicides. Go on the website. Call me. We have providers that we can refer you to. I don't mind giving out my cell phone number if you're looking for help. It's 775-340-0268. We can, there is just don't, the thing is, don't do nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And there is no shame. There is no embarrassment, either for you, your family, your loved one. You have to set all of that aside because
That's right.
This is crisis. If your house were on fire, you would not be too embarrassed to go outside.
Right.
You would be
exactly.
saving yourself.
You would be saving yourself. And I can tell you, as a parent that lost my son to suicide, I mean, he was older, but it is, you have, and sometimes, you just have to keep asking and asking and asking. And so I know I just have a real soft spot for parents who are experiencing, if their child is experiencing a mental health crisis. It's very difficult to watch your child go through this.
And it's hard to be impartial. That's
Yep.
why you need help.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right. And again, there's no shame. And that's why we need to talk about suicide, because we don't want people to feel ashamed for asking for help. We don't want youth to feel ashamed that they're having these feelings inside. I mean, sometimes, youth have scary feelings inside and they don't know what to do with them. And so they just keep them quiet. They feel like, sometimes they feel like they want to die. They want to hurt themselves. Maybe they want to hurt somebody else. Maybe they're so mad and they don't know what to do with these feelings. And it's when those feelings just stay in there and stay in there and stay in there that that's when kids get into trouble.
Wendy Charlebois is our guest, of course, as a professional, a longtime social worker, educator, professor at Great Basin College, now teaches for UNR in the master's program. And Wendy, we are going to promote these things too in the walk, but I do want to just revisit, because I kind of sense that a lot of people listening were saying 90% of youth experiencing mental health issues. That doesn't mean 90% of youth suicidal or having those thoughts, or even supporting a sibling or a schoolmate who's going through this, but 90% experiencing a mental health issue. And we just had law enforcement on talking about the role that social media and all these digital platforms is playing. Mm-hmm. That's why it's different. So if you're listening saying, well, it didn't used to be that way, it didn't used to be that way. And
that I'm looking at, I should have made sure that that's an age group between like 12 and 22 years old. And so that's a lot of kids.
It's a lot of kids.
And when I say a mental health issue, I'm talking about feelings of worthlessness. Maybe they're feeling hopeless. Maybe they're having school issues, bullying. And you're right that social media plays a huge role. I mean, even the former Surgeon General, Vivek, I can't ever say his last name, but I loved him. He talked about this a lot, about the role of social media and what goes on social media, the bullying, the comparisons that especially young women experience, and this idea of loneliness. And social media feeds into loneliness. Loneliness is rampant in the country right now. I mean, a lot of people, there are just lots and lots of people who need to connect with someone, physically connect. And I mean, talking to them in person, because, social media just doesn't cut it.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of connecting, Wendy, I want to make sure we look forward to this event every year, and it's coming right up. This is a chance to connect. Sadly, it seems like the crowd has grown every year, but it doesn't mean that everybody has experienced a suicide of a loved one, a family member, someone close. But it means more and more people care about this, and we're creating awareness.
Right, and we have, what Laurie's talking about is our 2025 Elko Walk for Fostering Hope, Health, and Healing, and it's a 5K run on Saturday, September 13th. At Great Basin College by the gym where they have the bits and bites. That's where we're going to start. And registration starts at 8 o'clock, and it's $20 per runner. Dog, you can walk your dog, a stroller walker. You get a T-shirt. You get a kind of a swag bag. And our opening comments this year are going to be Delmo Andriozzi is going to be our speaker. And we're walking in memory for those who have died by suicide, and for the hope of preventing more suicides. And we know that one suicide affects about 65 people. Each suicide affects about 65 people. And so that's why, and the reason why it's grown is because you're right, people have gotten more interested, and that's the hopeful part. The Elko Federal Credit Union has been wonderful in helping us with registration. They've provided some funding. They've just done a lot for us, and so they're coming back. I encourage people to gather a team and challenge one another, challenge the teams, and to come out and do it. And it's fun. Usually the weather's pretty good, and we're going to have food trucks this time. Hopefully, if anybody's out there, it's got a food truck, come and help us.
It's going to be on that Saturday, September 13th, right? Starting bright and early, 8 a.m. It'll be on the Great Basin College campus, just as Wendy described this year. So it's different. Last year it was downtown. This year it's moved to the GBC campus, and
in front of the gym.
Yeah, right there in front of the gym. So restrooms will be open, food trucks will be there, and it's not a competition in the sense of, you can walk, you can run, you can bring strollers, dogs on leashes, that kind of thing, but it's really only a competition for your feelings, for your heart. Yeah. I mean, to help each other. It's just about being there.
Right.
Connecting.
It is. Yeah. It's a great thing, and we're doing it a little bit different because, unfortunately, our state Office of Suicide Prevention was defunded.
That's just a fact.
Yeah, that's just a fact. I'm not exactly sure how that's worked because it was defunded, but now there are people that used to work there that are working again. I'm not exactly sure what the status is of that. So we were always helped by the coalition.
Well, it's just that they have parameters now, Wendy, and I'm sure once they sort those out, it's part of the national initiative, and they just want to make sure that none of this suicide prevention singles out any one group over the other, which is just really offensive in itself.
It affects every
group. It politicizes everything, and it should never be politicized. It's heartbreaking. And
suicide happens
absolutely
to every group known
and
to
shame
mankind.
on you if you are of the position that people shouldn't receive special help or services based on what they're.
That's right.
So getting that out of the way, but we are strong here with Zero Suicides Elko County. And again, thanks to Jan Basier, as you mentioned, of course, to Lynette Vega, of course, to you, Wendy Charlebois. And we do this program, in memory of Rochelle and Brian and Luke. You wouldn't be here if
that's right.
I wouldn't
other people. It's the more I learned about suicide prevention before Luke died. I mean, he had his own mental health struggles for many years. And Misty Allen, who used to be the head of the Office of Suicide Prevention, after Luke died, she came to me and she says, "I know you were worried about him for a long time, weren't you?" And I said, "Yes."
Yeah.
And, he's in my heart, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
And, that's why I want other people to, I don't want people to go it alone. I didn't have to go it alone. Let me tell you, I have so many friends that I didn't know I had so many people that that cared about me and cared about Luke until, I had a lot of support. And that's what I want for everybody. I guess that's the silver lining for me, is that I had so much support, and I want other people to have that. And I know that there are people, I've worked with a lot of down and out people in my career, and I know that there are some people who have no one. And that should never be. And I think that if Zero Suicides can provide that support for someone, just one person, we will have done a good job.
Wendy is doing a good job every day with Zero Suicides, and of course, and in your professional work. And I wanted to make sure we had a chance just to remind people that if they have the same sort of heart and desire, and maybe are considering a career or enhancing their opportunities, that there is education to become a trained social worker. We've made some great strides. You were telling us that there are going to be a couple of more local professionals as a result of your education, you helping others.
Well, there is a GBC still offers a social work program. You start out at GBC, you take all of your prerequisites, you take all of your core social work classes at GBC. In your final year, you become a UNR student, you get your diploma from UNR, you take classes online through UNR through your final year, you do an internship like a couple of our people have done here in Elko recently. And then you can graduate with your bachelor's in social work at the end of 4 years. If you do everything, you follow that curriculum plan to the letter, you can get it in 4 years. Mm-hmm. And then you can, if you want to go further and become a clinical social worker, a therapist, you can get your master's. That's what I teach in right now. I sort of supervise I don't supervise the internships, but I am the faculty liaison for the students during their internships. And there is so much going on in social work you cannot even imagine. And I've had 2 students that have manned the crisis line in Reno. I've got one student now that's manning I shouldn't say manning, I don't know what the right word is. She is working on the sex trafficking crisis line through a nationwide program. I mean, they're just doing all kinds of really unusual things, working at the public defender's office, working in the court systems, working at the Legislative Council Bureau. I mean, social workers are doing so much, and it is a degree that is so needed, and we're going to need you now more than ever. And it's so affordable too, because it is a 3+1. You start here at GBC, so do investigate that, and you can go to gbcnv.edu, Wendy. That's right.
All right. Well, we covered a lot of territory today. I hope we got, but you can come back anytime. Yeah. Okay. Right?
Yeah. All right. I will.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff here, too.
And she's going to leave all these papers with me because we can keep talking about it. Well, okay. Well, you're getting ready for the next event.
Yeah. It's going to be busy. I'm really looking forward to the Wendy's event.
Oh, yeah, because who wouldn't want a delicious Wendy's burger and a Frosty if you're hungry right now?
Well, Wendy's, Dave Thomas, the Dave Thomas Foundation, has been really big in adoption out of foster care. because his was it he that was, it wasn't him that was adopted. I think they adopted.
He adopted a daughter.
Yeah, he adopted a daughter.
And she was sort of the model for the red-haired Wendy's girl.
Yeah,
Yes.
so he's always been very involved in this.
Nice.
And when I used to do adoptions, I mean, we would get, for different things that we would do, we would tap into their foundation. And so it's there. And believe me, foster kids are at really high risk for suicide. So
yeah, we need rural foster families more than ever.
Boy, I'll tell you, that's a whole nother topic.
Well, I know that, yes, we'll talk again and talk some more. Thank goodness for foundations like Wendy's Foundation and every other organization that is willing to give to this cause and not to measure it or place boundaries on it based on philosophical differences. So thank you, Wendy, for being here today.
Thank you, Lori.
We appreciate you. Thank you, listeners, for joining us.